Good morning. How you doing? It's Saturday already. It's the 19th of October. We're looking at 7:52 in the morning here in Western Iowa. Hope you're having a great weekend so far. Coming up on today's big show, will we see a big snowstorm for Halloween for the Northern Plains? Maybe. We'll take a look at that. And of course, we'll take a look at our current snowstorm that's a cutoff low in the Four Corners area. It's giving some severe weather chances again for eastern New Mexico today and some flooding. So we'll take a look at that as well. And a big warm up on the plains and a big cool down for the Great Lakes and the east. So let's jump in. I guess we've already started. This is Brighton Resort in Utah yesterday morning. So they tweeted a nice picture of some of the snow that's coming down there, and they're very excited to get the ski season started. And our big low in the Four Corners area is sending some snow to the ski areas. This is Arizona Snowball, which is in the White Mountains in eastern Arizona. And they're forecasting up to a foot of snow total. But this is yesterday late morning where it was snowing there at Arizona Snowball. And in Flagstaff, this also yesterday late morning or mid-morning at the National Weather Service office in Flagstaff. They had 2 inches of snow so far, and so it's starting to look white up there. Third week of October. It doesn't always snow that early in parts of Arizona, but certainly this upper level low in the Four Corners is accomplishing that and more. There's your flooding chances for eastern New Mexico. That's also severe weather chances there too. We'll take a look at that here in just a little bit. Still freeze warnings up for southeastern Arizona. Further to the north, still looking at some winter weather advisories hanging in. Also into Utah, and winter storm warnings for parts of Utah still. That also goes for the southwest mountains of Colorado. Further to the north in Utah and up into Wyoming, looks like freeze warnings there. Also, the Snake River Valley, Boise area. Some wind up there in Montana with a high wind watch, I believe that is, or a high wind warning, one of the two. So be careful. 2 hands on the wheel if you're driving a high-profile vehicle. All right. Some fog up there in Minnesota, North Dakota. And in California, red flag warnings are up. They've had some wildfires in the southern part of the state, with some Santa Ana winds and very warm temperatures too. And that's the forecast for further north in central California up into the Bay Area. Red flag warnings are up for high fire danger, so be careful there. Also not too far from, where is that? South of Point Conception, so maybe Santa Barbara area. And even some wind advisories down there. All right, today's weather spotlight takes us to Albuquerque, New Mexico. We did not take a wrong turn in Albuquerque. We actually landed right there. And Albuquerque itself, 1/4 to a 1/2 inch of rain, but they are looking for heavy rain and storms for eastern New Mexico through tomorrow. And some copious amounts of rainfall expected, 2 to 3 inches for Roswell, 4 to 6 for Fort Sumner and Santa Rosa, up to Roy, all the way up to Des Moines, Clayton, 3 to 4, along with Nara Vista. I've never heard of that place. How about that? Clovis, 1.5 inches for a couple, even up to Las Vegas, 2 to 3. And so, yeah, eastern New Mexico, the target for heavy rainfall and a chance of severe weather according to the Storm Prediction Center. So a marginal risk today for all of eastern New Mexico, well, pretty much, and then down into far west Texas. And there's a tornado threat with that as well. Pretty much the same area of the severe. You can see that really doesn't budge. So one of the severe, chances is tornadoes. It's a slight chance, only 2%, but there could be a tornado or two. This is where your storm chasers are going to be today, the ones that are out. All right, today's surface for the rest of the country. Hang on one second. So sorry about that. All right. So here's your severe weather in eastern New Mexico up into southeastern Colorado, according to this map. And that low kind of stuck in Arizona, Four Corners area. You see the front moving through parts of New Mexico, but lingering snows for northern Arizona and Utah. And of course, the mountains of southwestern Colorado still getting hammered with some snow. Scattered storms, West Texas, Kansas, Nebraska, Colorado, a little bit of rain up there in Washington, maybe some snow up there, northern Rockies, a little bit of rain, Minnesota, Wisconsin, into Michigan, and a little bit of rain for Florida as well. Temperatures really warming up on the plains again. So Iowa into Wisconsin, back towards the Dakotas, Nebraska. I mean, eastern Montana, teens above average here. And also for the Pacific Northwest, we see some warm temperatures for the Willamette Valley. But where we have our upper level low in the Four Corners, that's where the cool air is. And so temperatures a good teens below average, maybe even 20 degrees below average for parts of Arizona. But all the Four Corners states a little bit below average, and even southeastern part of the United States slightly cool. To translate to these kinds of highs for the southeast, it's 70s, although 80s down in Florida. 70s and 80s for Texas, except West Texas, 60s. As you head into the plains, lots of 70s here, all the way up into southern Minnesota. We do see some 60s for the Dakotas, and then back to 70s as you get into Montana. Up and down the West Coast, mostly 70s here, 70s to near 80 for the desert Southwest. Back to the east, we got 70s mid-Atlantic, also Mississippi River Valley, all the way up into Pennsylvania, 70s here. A few 60s maybe for the Northeast, but some 70s really. Low temperatures to start the day tomorrow. The West is the coolest with some 30s and 40s widespread here, a few 50s. And then as we head east, we're starting in the 50s for, say, Iowa, Nebraska, Minnesota, and Wisconsin. Otherwise, a lot of 40s. In fact, 40s all the way down to the Gulf Coast almost. And a few 30s up there for New York State. But warmer in Texas and along the Gulf Coast to start the day for tomorrow. Tomorrow's surface shows our low stuck in the Four Corners still. New Mexico with scattered showers, severe possibilities again, we'll show you that. Colorado still getting snow, Utah too, Arizona lingering snows. That's severe weather in eastern New Mexico. Once again for Sunday with a chance of tornadoes. A little smaller area, but still centered right around Roswell, New Mexico. 2% chance of tornadoes here. Temperatures for tomorrow, very warm. Northern Plains into Minnesota and Wisconsin. Iowa included in that. Central Plains, teens above average. So just very warm even along the whole Canadian border. Slightly warm up in the Northeast. And then down into Texas even, but cool still with our low in the Four Corners area and slightly cool in the Southeast. Those highs look like this. You can really see where that low is over the Four Corners. We see that pocket of 50s and even some 40s. And of course 30s where it's snowing in the mountains. And then you get outside of that circle and you start seeing warmer temperatures, 60s and 70s. 70s, even 80s in the plains well to the north. I mean, 80 degrees, 81 degrees for Des Moines for October 20th. It's quite warm. 70s for the Ohio Valley into the Northeast even. So just very warm kind of everywhere. All right, next 2 days, precipitation shows you the rainfall amounts. And we already went over that in detail. But eastern New Mexico, again, up to 4 or 5, maybe even 6 inches of rain isolated here for the next 2 days. And then that's snow up in the southwestern mountains of Colorado, rain or snow depending on elevation, northern Arizona into Utah. And then you look into the Pacific Northwest, quite a bit of rain coming down for western Washington. Could see pockets of 4 inches of rain in the Olympic Mountains and the northern Cascades. And even along the coast, we're looking up to an inch, maybe a little bit more. And the 48-hour snowfall, it's nice to pull out this map, kind of centered in on the southwest. It doesn't quite catch all of Colorado, but we see for the next 2 days, so this doesn't count what's already fallen, but ending Monday morning, we could see another 2 feet of snow in the mountains near Durango in southwestern Colorado. Central Colorado, less snow, but still up to half a foot. Look, some small pockets in Utah, up to a foot of snow. and could be half an inch to an inch near Flagstaff, and a little bit of snow for the White Mountains too. Monday's looking like this. Our low finally gets kicked out into the plains, scattered storms, Nebraska, Iowa, Missouri, Kansas, Oklahoma, West Texas, and the Panhandle too, and South Texas. Some rain for Florida perhaps, and then up along the Canadian border, our new system moving into the Pacific Northwest, spreading rain and snow into Montana, Idaho, some snow for the Washington Cascades and Olympics, and it's rain in Oregon. Temperatures on Monday cooling off in the Pacific Northwest. Nice. Warming up still, or still warm, I should say, for the northern plains into Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, Missouri. Just crazy. Moderating temperatures as the low heads into the plains, starting to warm up towards average for the Four Corners area, and warm temperatures through Michigan into the Ohio Valley and the Northeast as well. And those highs on Monday for the Northeast 70s. We shouldn't be in the mid 70s this time of year in Pennsylvania, but here we are. Same for Columbus, Ohio, Indiana, Indianapolis, Indiana, mid 70s. Mid to upper 70s for Illinois. Same for Iowa. My goodness. Warm all over. See some 80s back in Texas and Louisiana and Florida and the desert Southwest, but cooler Pacific Northwest and the Central Rockies. All right, let's get me set up here. Can I pull up? I think I can. The GFS. This will take us through. I'm gonna go through Halloween on here because we still have a chance for some snow for the northern plains for Halloween, although maybe not as widespread as the GFS showed yesterday. We're going to keep an eye on it, of course. So as we're looking at currently, rain and snow for the Four Corners, and mainly that's New Mexico into Colorado. So still snow in mountains near Durango, some heavy rainfall for northern and eastern New Mexico, with our chance of severe weather there today and heavy rainfall. So this gets us to tonight, or I should say, evening for eastern New Mexico. You can see just areas of heavy rainfall here and some supercells, which could produce some tornadoes, a slight risk of that. We see our heavy rain up here in western Washington, northwestern Washington too, as well. So this is tonight, moving towards midnight. That's midnight-ish right here. Still heavy rain for eastern New Mexico. Still raining there in northwestern Washington. A little bit of lingering rain for Arizona and Utah, and you can see that spin still happening here as we get into Sunday morning. Some snow still southwestern Colorado, some rain still eastern New Mexico, flaring back up as we get into Sunday night into Monday. Some of the showers moving into West Texas now, and then we see still snow coming now, lingering snow for Colorado. This is early Monday morning. Rain moving into Oregon. Our system moving into the plains. This is Monday afternoon as we get some rain for Kansas into Nebraska, South Dakota. Some rain moving into Montana and Idaho as our system in the Pacific Northwest makes some progress eastward. A little bit of rain here for Nebraska and where I live in Iowa, but it's on the light side. We could use a little bit better soaking than that. So we have our low pressure well into Canada here, but it's behind it. Some cooler air dipping south. This is Tuesday afternoon, evening. And as we get into the day on Wednesday, we see that cooler air making further progress southward. It's going to cool us off a little bit here in Iowa. The bigger cool off is coming for the Great Lakes and eventually the east. And you see that cold front out ahead of it, bringing some showers into New York State, into Pennsylvania, eventually Vermont and New Hampshire. The colder air dipping into the Great Lakes and moving into the Northeast. And then as quick as it cools off in the plains, it's going to warm right back up. This gets us into, this is midnight Wednesday, moving into Thursday morning. See a little bit of snow coming down New York State, Vermont, New Hampshire, maybe into Massachusetts and Maine. And that cooler air clears. We start to warm back up much of the country, but another system moving into the Pacific Northwest. This gets us into Thursday, the 24th, moving into Friday, the 25th. Another system for The Pacific Northwest, pretty quiet elsewhere. Speeding things up a little bit. Another system for the Pacific Northwest. This is the 27th, Sunday the 27th, so we're getting close to Halloween. Where's our snowstorm? This is heavy rain and snow for the Northwest on the 28th. A good soaking here and cooler temperatures. And just speeding up, we can see another system for California. This is the 30th now, getting closer to our Halloween storm. That moves into the Rockies, gaining some strength. A lot of snow for the Rockies, some thunderstorms, some rain. And we are now into Halloween. So some snow up here for the Rockies, moving into the plains. And as that storm gathers strength and moves into Canada, some very windy conditions here. Some colder air coming in. That's going to be snow for North Dakota and Montana mainly. If this comes exactly true, some lingering snow back behind it for eastern Oregon, Idaho, and maybe parts of Wyoming for Yellowstone. And that storm moves into Canada, colder air and lingering light snow as we get into the first day of November. And then a cold front moving southward. So cooler air coming to start the day, or to start the month and the day in November. All right, let's move back to our 6 to 10 day temperatures. We just can't shake these warmer temperatures, at least in this time period. The 24th through the 28th, very warm across much of the country, except for northwestern Washington there. And then as we've seen, as we get towards Halloween and beyond, we're going to see a change in this pattern. But for the 6 to 10 day outlook, it's just warm and dry for most of the country. The Northwest would be the exception here. In Northern California included in that. And then let's go back to our anomalous temperatures for next week. So we'll just go through Monday, very warm, especially Northern Plains, Central Plains, kind of cool, Four Corners, Northwest, Southeast. And then as we get into Tuesday, warming up Southeast, still warm Plains, warm Northeast, pretty warm everywhere, slightly below average for the Northwest. Wednesday, warm pretty much everywhere. Great Lakes a little bit on the cool side, maybe a few temperatures below average for the Northwest. Thursday, here's our cool off for the Great Lakes and the East Coast. And warm elsewhere, especially in the Northern Plains and, down around Texas, Oklahoma. Friday, very warm Northern Plains and Central Plains. Still cool for Northeast, even the Mid-Atlantic. And cooling off for the Pacific Northwest. Still cool on Saturday, Pacific Northwest, like 30 to 35 degrees above average. Iowa, the bullseye for Saturday, so a week from today. Very warm temperatures. Wisconsin, Illinois, Missouri, into Kansas, Nebraska, Iowa, and Minnesota. Sunday, the second half of the weekend, not quite as hot, but still on the warm side, much above average, all the way to the upper Mississippi River Valley, from the Central Plains, Northern Plains, even the Southern Plains, not as dramatic, but 20 degrees above average for Amarillo. Kind of cool in the Pacific Northwest, 5 to 10 degrees below average. Quick look at Halloween temperatures. We do see the Pacific Northwest cooling off, and as that storm exits up into Canada, some of that cold air making its way into the Northern Plains, into the Central and Southern Rockies. So really the western half of the country below average, and the eastern half of the country above average on our early look on Halloween. And as we go day by day going through these models, we'll keep you posted, because as you know, when we're looking that far out, things are subject to change. I'd really do appreciate you tuning in. I hope you have a great weekend, and we'll see you tomorrow right here on the Weather Mic.